Thursday, September 20th, 2018. This is the right side of campus here on sportsbookreview.com. If you haven't done so yet, folks, as you know, it's been a while since I opened up the show on a solo mission today that we'll be going through over the next hour. But if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet on YouTube, please do so every single time a show goes live here on the networks. You will get that notification and that link. Come into the chat box, say hello. But welcome in. I'll be your host today once again, Donnie Rightside, the big man on campus, having a little bit of internet issues over in his neck of the woods. So I'm not too sure he'll be participating in the show. So we could turn it into an NFL show and have as much fun as we want talking about the NFL. But we do have some guidelines that we like to use. You know, the morning headlines coming in. We'll touch on a little college football and also, of course, go over the NFL and hit some of today's daily topics. Just going to see if I can find my way into the chat box here in just a few moments. Once we get that live link out there, folks, please feel free to retweet that. It's the best way to reach out there, grow the show organically. Maybe some people didn't see the show that will tune into the show and like the show. And most importantly, folks, for us, help the show grow. So as I muddle around, there we go. Got a live link out here. Put that out to all my guys there on Twitter, and I'll be able to come into the chat box here momentarily and say hello, and we can certainly have some fun and get after it out there. Again, not going to see the big man on campus. Maybe he'll poke his nose into the chat box. I'm pretty sure that he does have internet through his phone, but just maybe not through our great affiliates here in the Northeast through Comcast. There we go. Kingsley's in here. Crazy Rockets in here. Alex, Lawrence, Juan, Skooma, Kings, Troy, Reggie, Joe, Lawrence. Hey, Donnie, did big man forget to pay the bill again? Yeah, you know what? Might have to go down to the corner store. I mean, there's a lot of Xfinity dealers in a lot of towns there. You might have to roll down, hit that little kiosk, swipe that debit card through, get it turned back on, and we'll have some fun here on the show. But welcome in there. Maddie's in here. Giorgio's in here. We'll have some fun and talk a little bit of football. Because, look, you know what my love in life is, right? My singular love is the NFL. Big card out there. Some interesting news yesterday in the NFL that we'll hit on. Some injury information popping up. Who's playing, who's not, who's supposed to play, who's going to sit. Who looks like they've given up on the season already. So a lot of good, interesting topics that we can have fun here. Donnie with the old school mic. Yeah, usually the mic goes off to the side, but we were sound testing for something yesterday, so I just decided to keep it right in front of me here. And it's always nice. You know, sometimes we joke around like, hey, Donnie, you're muted. Donnie, you're muted. And I always have to kick it in. Well, at least I went away from the wireless earpieces today, which don't give me feedback in my ears. So when I hit mute, I know I'm on mute. And when I'm not on mute, you know, vice versa in that same instance. So at least today, I can hear myself talk in my ear. So we won't have that issue where I'll talk for the first 5 minutes of the show and be like, Donnie, you're muted. We didn't hear anything you said. So at least we're going to be able to keep that out there. Better sound with the closer mic, Donnie. I like it. Yeah, well, I like, you know me. I mean, if you've seen my shows or any appearances here on the channels, a lot of stuff's changed over the years. Sometimes I bring the boom in. Sometimes I keep the mic off camera. Sometimes I have the wireless in. Even one time I even tried to get a really high-priced microphone headset that sounded like I was in a chopper about to make a landing in Vietnam. So we've always rolled with the punches and changed a lot of things up here, and it certainly had some fun. How, Giorgio, do you expect a bigger role, Corey Clement? He's the only guy, to be honest with you, Giorgio. Who else are you going to? You're not going to go Josh Adams and give him in his first start in the NFL 15 to 20 touches in that game. It's going to be a lot of Corey Clement. So fire up the Corey Clement wagon there if you're looking at any fantasy action there on FanDuel or DraftKings this weekend. So it should be an interesting one. Corey Jean, got anything on your Temple tonight, Donnie? You're probably somewhat familiar with that team. Look, Temple had a good game last week. You know, sort of woke up. They lost to Buffalo. They lost to Villanova. Both of those games at home. Didn't play very well in those, obviously, on the defensive side of the ball. That's a nice win going to a bigger school down there, Power 5 in Maryland, and taking care of business. Now coming home versus a little softer Tulsa team. But if you're looking at any of these lines that are popping up here, I mean, look, sometimes you got to read between it. Pinnacle opened up 6.5. Chris opens up at 6.5. That line, you know, fluttered between 7.5 and 7. But I'm looking at my odds board right now. Chris is sporting 6.5. Pinnacle -7 plus 102. So the line not going in the right direction for Temple. But Jeff and I talked about it yesterday. When you're looking at those football games, sometimes it's just about the line alone. Maybe if you get 7 or less, it's a Temple line. 7.5 or higher, it's going to be a Tulsa line. So if it's sitting there at 6.5, you know, I think Temple will be able to handle the deal at home. I think they're a more physical football team than Tulsa. I think they're overall a better football team than Tulsa, and they're at home, which in the past couple of years, they played very well at home also. Scuba Steve Donnie has the whole sound team behind the camera. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you should see all the producers that sit right behind me right there. You know, I have the guy that gets me my monsters, have the guy that gets me maybe a little bit of coffee. That guy over there gets me water. You know, hey, we have a whole team behind it that makes us ready to go. Matthew Vaughn, ready for the Tour Championship today. Yeah, how interesting is that? A 30-man field. And isn't it nice when all 30 of those players look, not all of them, but pretty much set up for life at this point? You go out, you play a couple rounds, and yeah, you might end up with a $10 million paycheck when it's all said and done before you get off to the Ryder Cup next week. A lot of really good matchups here, but there's only 30 players in this, not 50, not 75, not 100, not 150 like there are in some majors out there. So that should be real interesting to watch and see how it goes off the next couple of days. But that's a lot of money. But interesting part of it down in East Lake in Atlanta is you technically don't even have to win this tournament to win the $10 million check. So a lot of, I don't want to say like volleys and strategies are going to go into this because, we're not going to Roy McAvoy this whole tournament and just try to go, clear every water hazard. If you're coming up 18 and you just have to stay in like sixth place or whatever it is, you're probably going to play things a little bit differently than you would if you had to actually win the tournament outright. So a lot of fun and a lot of interesting things to go through there. Cam Raphael, hey, what's up, Donnie? Sam's Picks, morning, guys. Nice mic. Yeah, the mic's always been here. Now we're just giving it a little bit more airtime here so you can get a nice look at it. But I've always loved the Yeti mics out there. I think they're the best mic in the business. Good feedback on there. Pick up everything. You could turn it around. Great for podcasts. And they're relatively inexpensive. I mean, you can get a Yeti mic now probably for around $100. So definitely worthwhile on the investment on those. But why don't we get into a little bit of the morning headlines here? And then we'll go down as we choose there. See if we want to pick out some NFL, some maybe college football spots that we can look at. Maroon 5 at Super Bowl 53. I had to do a double take, to be honest with you, yesterday, folks. When I saw Maroon 5 out here get the Super Bowl nod. Like, look, I know you play to your audience, and a lot of the corporate crowd is, 40 years old or higher, and they watch The Voice, and they know Adam Levine, and they heard of Maroon 5. But wasn't it your chance to be in Atlanta and pick on a little bit of that next generation and give them what they want? I'm 40 years old, and I wanted this. Why not dip into that Atlanta base down there, the T.I.s, the Outcasts, Usher, and just have a whole nice, bring 6, 7, or 8 of them out at halftime just to rip it up and give you the sound of the South and Atlanta. You went Maroon 5 in this one. Now, you probably should have went like Maroon 5 last year in Minnesota, I guess. That would have fit maybe a little bit more. But down in the dirty South, like, are we really going Maroon 5 as a halftime show of the Super Bowl, which is what everybody wants? But I understand the demographic that they do want it to appeal to. Maybe like my wife wouldn't understand like a little bit of speaker box up there or some rubber band man and, all that stuff that's going to go along with the halftime show with the South and the South sound, as we like to say. And maybe the wives are, oh, that's Adam Levine. I'm so glad it's going to be on at halftime. And I mean, I get all that they have to play into every demographic. But I thought it would have been a great spotlight on Atlanta if you pick the boys that were from Atlanta and can get after it. Reading down here in the chat box here. Big Boy, exactly. Aren't they the representatives of Atlanta? Big Boy and Andre 3000? ATLians? I mean, come on, man. Like, isn't that what the South is about there in Georgia? You figured it would have been perfect. Yeah, there you go, Sports Cavern. Give me Tevin Campbell. Baby, I'm ready. Yes, man. Come on. I grew up with Tevin Campbell in the 90s. Could have popped him out there for a little bit of salt. I'm sure he still has the pipes to get busy off there. Jeezy's down there. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Bring the snowman out. I mean, you could have a lot of fun and a lot of great artists that were from Atlanta or from the South that you could have put on Showcase, and they would have showed out at the Super Bowl. Similar to what the NBA does. The NBA gives the younger crowd what they want, usually puts on a good film. Whether or not, even if the shows or the actors, they're going to come with something there and be very exciting. And look, the NFL halftime show is watched by millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people. Would have been nice to get it out there. I would have enjoyed it, very much on that. But that is my piece on Maroon 5. I mean, look, why don't you just bring back like The Who or something like that, or, Fish, and just put them on stage at halftime? You always want that next up-and-coming artist. I mean, what is the NFL thinking? That maybe they can't trust the young artist? Who's going to go up there and, drop, hot mic bombs up there all night long, and they can't get away with it, and we can't do it. Let's just go with the safe one, Maroon 5, so they can get up there. The Goo Goo Dolls weren't available, I guess, in that same genre. We could have paid. Hey, look, I'm a Hall & Oates fan, seen them in concert many times. I'd rather see Hall & Oates at the halftime show than see Maroon 5 at this point. But then again, the wives and the girlfriends screamed, "There was Adam Levine!" And I guess that's what they have to cater to there at halftime as well. Cuban pays $10 million. And I'm glad this came up yesterday, right? Because here's the disconnect in society, in business, and whatever you have. And it basically says, if you have money, you can run your organization, you can run your life, you can run your politicalness, you can run anything in this world and do whatever you damn well please if you do have money. And I'm not saying anything is right or wrong here in the NBA, and they're going to make decisions based on what's good for business, and I fully understand that. But it seemed like it was Animal House for a long time down there with the Dallas Mavericks. Mark Cuban sitting up at the top, and I always love people like the Dallas Mavericks are Mark Cuban's first love in life, right? If you've watched him over the years owning the Mavericks, He takes more of an approach with the Mavericks probably than anything outside of maybe his wife or child, if he does have one at this point. They are his love, and he has no idea what's going on behind closed doors where people are walking out, and it's just basically harassment city heading in there. Imagine if you ran your day-to-day life. Like you went to work. Let's just say you're a real estate agent. You own a small real estate office, or you own maybe one or two real estate offices. You would be knocked out of business, sued, and probably end up in jail for some libelous cause if you were what was going on with the Dallas Mavericks organization at this point. But isn't it amazing when you have more money than God, where you just stroke a check where you know you're in trouble and the NBA can't fine you over what, $2.5 million? So you just come up with some arbitrary number. We'll just donate 10 million to women's causes. All good, right? Man, that Mark Cuban, he's a nice guy. Donated 10 million when he probably could have only been fined for 2.5 million. Imagine going about your day. You're a principal of a high school, and everybody underneath you, it's sexual harassment left and right, and you just turn a blind eye to it. You'll be fired in a second from your job, humiliated, and not be able to work again. But if you have billions of dollars, it doesn't matter. Stroke a check. Hey, paid the bill here, man. Let me move on. No jail time. No, nothing. Not going to lose your franchise because in the NBA, they're usually really progressive in these instances. I mean, when you take a look at Donald Sterling for the Clippers, I mean, it was over the years, you saw the bad patterns of Donald Sterling, whether they be racist in nature or just being a bad human being and treating, women and everybody just like a piece of meat throughout his tenure as the Clippers, as the Clippers owner there. He ends up selling for a windfall of like $2 billion. His wife gets the money, or however they were dividing it up. But that guy lost his franchise because he was using bad words and treating people bad. I don't know if there's any sexual harassment clauses or anything of that nature. But, Mark Cuban, one would have thought if you're going down that same path with David Silver, we don't stand for this in the NBA. This is absolutely atrocious what happens. Mark Cuban will be selling that team as of next Monday morning, and he will be fined $10 million. It's amazing, though, if you have a check big enough that can clear, you can keep your franchise and it goes on as business as usual out there. But it's amazing. It really is amazing that in this day and age, and again, you can get away with anything. As long as you have money, you can pay people off, you can come to settlements, you can sexually harass, but as long as you have a check big enough that clears, you're not going to be liable in the criminal community. You're not going to face any outstanding penalties. And look, put a happy face on it. Boy, we didn't like what Mark Cuban did down there, but his check is really big and we can donate this thing. So just a shame what happens out there in the NBA and, facilitate that horrible environment down there. And don't you always love how they overcorrected too? When you take a look at the Mavericks, don't you love how they overcorrected the situation? Well, look who we hired here. We hired a woman now to run the franchise, so we're all good. We made amends. It's amazing. Why don't you have a woman running it in the first place then when all this nonsense was going on and who was running your franchise? It's amazing how they always auto-correct themselves. Like, all right, everything went wrong. We're just going to hire women all throughout the organization. That's fixed, and I'll write a big check there. It's not the problem. It's not the issue. It's the person who owns the team and facilitates that type of hiring. So moving on and moving upward here, Jimmy Butler once out of Minnesota. Doesn't it always seem like the wheel? Like you never have a downtime in the NBA, which is great because as long as you're in the news, it's a good thing for your sport, both good and bad for the most part of it. So Jimmy Butler now once out of Minnesota. Word on the street, dating somebody's girlfriend on the team brings me way back to my childhood days when the Dallas Mavericks were torn apart by Tony Braxton, when everybody wanted a piece of her and they couldn't function anymore as an organization. Looks like that little piece of action is happening now in Minnesota. And of course, it's the usual suspects. I'll only accept the trade to the Knicks, to the Clippers, to the Lakers, one of these teams. I'm not going anywhere, but you better meet my demands. I don't want to be here, and I want to be or Brooklyn. I want to be traded to the team I want to get after there. So more hijinks here in the NBA. Just when you think you can be, Tibbs is in town. He's got all the players he needs. He loves these players. Well, sometimes not the head coach at all. It's guys messing around in close, intertight circles, dating other people's wives and girlfriends. And then in the NBA, the players swing the hammer, not the coaches or the organization. So if Jimmy Butler wants out, probably going to be able to find his way out pretty quickly there. But I always get a laugh out of where they demand to be traded to. You better trade me to Los Angeles or I'm not playing for you. It's kind of fun. In the NFL, you don't really get to dictate where you go or what happens there. But the NBA, look, there's only 5 players on the floor and you need superstars. And if the superstars aren't happy, they are going to get out of town. Welcome in once again to the chat box out there. I see a lot of people going up, down, left, and right. Just get Jimmy to New York so him and Kyrie can team up next year. Yeah, I mean, only in the NBA when you watch, like the NFL always has a big offseason. You watch NFL Live on ESPN maybe in February, March, April, when there's not much going on. They can keep everybody busy and happy with free agency. I always get a kick out of the NBA over the summer where Like Kyrie Irving's going to play another year here for the Boston Celtics, but like the headlines in the summer, could Kyrie Irving leave after the year when you're like a year away from it already? But there's not a lot of NBA action going on, so they do like to get out there and get after it. Yeah, look, James Bond's on Usher, Ludacris, Migos. I mean, how many people are from Atlanta? If Kyle Hamburg's in here, I haven't seen him check in yet. I'm sure he can rip off a ton of people out there. And what is it, like 112? Didn't 112 come from Atlanta? Little peaches and cream down there. You can hit that off at halftime. I mean, you can even go back to, Rest Her Soul, Left Eye, but TLC could have performed down there, right? Pretty sure they're from Atlanta. You could have got the bands back together and just had a huge halftime, like a We Are the World down there with all those Atlanta people. Would have been nice there. We need a big man in New York. I wish the Knicks could get Giannis. Well, don't you have Joakim Noah wasn't good enough for you there? You know what I mean? Could have handled that, right? A lot of people are going to have money next summer. As you also saw, the NBA salary cap did go up again, which no surprise there. It's going to go up for the next couple of years with that last recent TV contract that brought a lot of money in there. But the NBA is right on the horizon. I'm not a huge NBA gambler there, but my Philadelphia 76ers are looking up. 50-plus wins last year. Can expect probably about the same this year. Celtics probably the better team, you can argue, of course. But it should be fun. Should be interesting. We'll see if some people got their jumpers together, a la Ben Simmons. And if you saw some of the stuff going around there with Markelle Fultz, hopefully he got his jumper together. Looks like there's some video out there. I still don't trust it because it's not a game situation. And he might have been shooting for 30 straight minutes from the same spot and knocking down jumpers. Let me see you in a game where you got to pull up off the dribble. Then we'll see what your jumper's really about out there. But as we roll along here, Browns reporter. Has anybody heard this story out here, right? Now, this is the passion that I really enjoy. In Philadelphia, we have a guy on the sideline who's been a longtime radio guy, Howard Eskin, and he's always mixing it up, but he's never done this. He'll wear the fur coats, the beat, his headphones on the sideline, and, be a little bit chippy on the sideline. But I've never heard this before, where a Browns sideline reporter, who I assume was probably working on radio because it wouldn't be a sideline reporter working through the networks other than the network people themselves, but arguing with a referee over a bad call. And I believe they suspended him. I didn't see the latest update, but I want to say it's for at least 8 games. That's something that I would do if I was on the field. You know what I mean? Like, you're just supposed to get down there and be like, hey, Jim, let's throw it down to you. Yeah, Cleveland's in this game. They're only down 3 points heading in the fourth quarter. Quick injury update. Jarvis Landry banged up his knee, but he should be good to go for the rest of the game. Dave, back to you in the box. This guy's getting close to referees on the field, whether it be a fumble call or a holding call, and giving an earful to a sideline referee. Now, that's impressive. That's some guy that I want in my foxhole with me if he's a reporter who's not only going to report on the game and what's going on, but try to influence it like a head coach or an assistant coach trying to set up that next penalty. Hey, ref, watch. Hey, ref, on the outside, Armstead's holding over there. Hey, look, Drew Brees, he's moving those hands around a lot. He's going to, induce an offside. That's illegal. That should be a false start. That's the guy you want in your foxhole. That's pretty impressive, though. Pretty impressive. Rod Digga, Donnie, what do you think about big man comments on NBA betting? Look, maybe people can beat the NBA, but if you're looking from game-to-game basis in the NBA, it's probably one of the harder leagues to gauge because of overall effort in NBA games. Are they professionals? Yes. Are 99% of the time they're going to give a professional effort? Absolutely they are. But in a sport where the players rule the roost, there's a lot of downtime in the NBA. I mean, there's only, 10 to 12 guys that are traveling with the team. You're going to 5-star hotels. There's a lot of women around. I can't blame them for wanting to hang out at the hottest nightclub in each and every city they go to. So a lot of stuff like that plays into it. But there's a lot of games in the NBA, and especially now where most teams and superstars, you never know which game or which coach or which staff is going to have one of those preservation-type games out there. Like, look, you're going to play tomorrow, but you're only going to get like 20 to 25 minutes. It's just hard to do and hard to gauge. But I do agree with Big Man in one instance there. You could probably make a little bit money or keep your head above water if you fade the public and maybe fade some line moves in there. But the NBA gauge, to me, is very hard because of how long the season is. And again, you're not dealing with, even if you look at football's got 55 players. I know it's 11 on 11 out there, but it's only one game a week. They're going to get prepared. They're going to give it their all on Sunday, and then they're going to have 6-7 days off before the next game. In the NBA is not the case. Maybe a knee flares up that you don't know about. The prevailing wisdom and information coming from the NBA is tough because I know a lot of people complain when you're doing like DraftKings and FanDuel, like the lineups lock. Like you never even know technically who's going to play that night or be a coach's decision or he's going to get the night off. In the NFL, that really doesn't take place a lot. And if you're looking at baseball saying, well, Donnie, baseball, They have 162 games and but you know who the pitcher is. Like the pitcher's not going to get scratched or, was the pitcher partying the night before and he can only go 3.5 innings. There's a lot more moving parts in the NBA, which I believe makes it a lot tougher to get after it there. But that's just my piece. And again, you guys know me. I always like to say I stay in my lane in a lot of points there. I'm never going to come out and tell you who to bet on or not bet on in the NBA because that's not the sport I believe I have an edge in or even come close to having an edge in. It's fun to read the lines, maybe place a wager down and say, well, I don't know why this line is 6 points here with the Lakers and the Sixers, but that line opened up at 8, it's down to 6, and you want to fade the line movement or take the line movement. I can't fault you for doing that, but I don't know enough about the intricacies of the NBA. And of course, we all know about, hey, they're playing back-to-back games, and you're going into Denver. It's you just played last night. It's going to be hard. Like those type of instances, yes, I agree with. But on the day-to-day movement of the NBA, kind of a little bit hard to grasp at that point there. Say 10 NBA is solid for me. Not sure why you'll talk about it. Yeah, hey, look, I know when you grew up down in that area down in West Texas. I believe Say 10 is from that Permian Basin area, Permian Midland area, but. I don't know how he knows about NBA growing up in that area, but maybe he matriculated out to California and was an original San Diego Clippers fan. I'm not too sure, but I think he's from that area of the country down in West Texas, Permian Basin. Sharigan says the NBA is rigged. I don't know about if it's rigged or not, but we always look, whenever we lose a bet or we get a bad beat out there, I'm always going to talk about stuff like being rigged and moving on and, I don't know about that one or nobody cared or the dunk in the last minute of the game and all that stuff. It's always fun to have that there. Sean Thompson, that's me, Donnie. Flip a coin. Yeah, it's tough. Look, I don't bet the NBA. I don't cap the NBA, but I do enjoy the NBA playoffs. I think, that's when they really get after it there. I don't like the monotony of the whole season. I've always grown up. I mean, I'm from the Philadelphia area. The Flyers were very good when I was growing up. No Stanley Cups. I mean, I'm not that old where I go back to 74, 75. I wasn't even born at that time yet. But, it's a long season in hockey, too. And I just wish sometimes I think they could because, look, they're never going to turn this down because the TV contracts are what they are. And, the home gate, it is what it is. You want to get the 40 or 41 games that you have at home in the NBA. I understand that. But, boy, wouldn't the NBA be fun? Wouldn't it be fun if it started after Christmas and you had like a 42-game season or a 40-game season? The games would be so intense and they would be so highly rated. It would be so much fun to watch. But I understand. Live program. It's why baseball makes a lot of money because they have 162 games. That means each team is getting the 81 days at the gate, and you have all those games for programming that you can charge for. Whereas the NBA, with the NFL, you only get 16 games plus some playoffs to get after it. So I fully understand it. Let's keep it moving tonight. Slide down that marker for us. We'll talk a little bit of Thursday night football and see what comes up here on the docket because we do have some information in this game, which is interesting. And if you heard me on the channels and if you heard me talking over the past couple days, I think it finally comes to an end tonight, folks. Those long suffering Browns fans would seem to can't get out of their own way at this point. They have beer, ready to go in certain areas of the city tonight. I need some water to really get my thoughts out here on the Cleveland Browns at this point. Jarvis Landry looks like he's going to play tonight. Crowd's probably already down there. What is it, First Energy Stadium? I don't even know what they call it anymore in Cleveland. The Mistake on the Lake, which was back in the day at Municipal Stadium. Browns fans are circulating in the parking lot. They can smell it. Get the bratwurst. You got the beer. The Rust Belt is there. They're ready to go. You have the windmills outside the stadium that are twirling. The anticipation is palpable. We had a huge celebration last year in the city of Philadelphia when we busted through and finally got the Super Bowl. I think it's time tonight for those Cleveland Browns out there. Jets are coming to town. Vegas hung a 5.5 as the team total for the Browns. Win's got to come somewhere, right? Tonight is the night that Cleveland breaks through here. Short work week. I love Thursday night home teams. I do. Never bet a Thursday night road team. Doesn't matter what the situation is. Never take a team on Thursday night football. It's an unfair advantage in the NFL. They don't care about safety. They don't care about the quality of the game. All they care about is it's a game on Thursday night football that they can use and sell to the public out there. Rookie quarterback coming in. Couple days to study what maybe the Cleveland Browns want to do. And let's not forget the Cleveland Browns. I ripped them game one. I didn't think they were very good in the rain versus the Steelers. Steelers turned it over and gave them every opportunity to win the football game. But having said that in the NFL, they were getting the breaks in that game. They couldn't cash in. They end up tying. They went on the road, and I'm not quite sure, folks, if you take a look at that Saints game last week, let's just say if we dropped you in from Eastern Europe where you're watching, I can't even pronounce the name, Gadakalakshari or whatever, which Big Man on Campus won on the other day. I can't pronounce it, but money still spends the same when it wins. Let's just say you were watching that game and the TV got all scrambled on there. You know what I mean? Snowflakes on the TV you can't see, and boop, they cut to a football game between New Orleans and Cleveland. You sat there and watched. You're like, yeah, New Orleans team doesn't look very good. I think Cleveland's probably the better team overall. They should have won that game. That was probably a really big upset that Cleveland lost that football game. Because if you pop on that tape and watch it all the way through, I'm astounded that Cleveland actually lost that football game. It all comes down to, again, can a kicker make some kicks? But the Cleveland Browns played two pretty competitive football games about what one would think upper echelon squads in the NFL, being the Saints and the Steelers. Now they're coming home in this one. You know they circled this game over the summer, right? Look, we got two tough ones right out of the gate. Let's see if we can give Pittsburgh hell, and let's just see what happens when we go down to New Orleans. But when we come home on this Thursday night in front of our home fans, they're going to expect to win tonight. Line opens up at -3. When's the last time the Browns were even, were even favorites? It's been a couple years at this point. Browns aren't used to winning. They throw it away. Odds makers are saying Cleveland wins tonight, and I think they're right in this part. I think they're right tonight. The one thing I wanted to wait on, it looks like he's going to give it a go, this is why it's so hard. Like, it's a lot easier. Like, if you run a service, non-service, or anything, information is king in everything. Because when you look at this game, Jarvis Landry, to me, is obviously their best weapon. I need this guy to be healthy to help Tyrod Taylor out. I think Tyrod will be okay tonight, but if your best wide receiver is dinged up a little bit, that's going to hurt you, especially a team that's not used to winning. I like the running back situation that they have. I think their defense is playing pretty good football out there as well, the Cleveland Browns. Sam Darnold, we all saw on national TV. He looked very good in the first Monday night game against Detroit Lions. I get that. But then you had that second week where we wanted to take a little bit of a look-see to see what Darnold looked like. Did he play bad? No. But I think we know what the Jets are out there. Miami put it on him. Miami's the better football team, and the Jets were at home. Now they're coming up on the road here. No shame if the Jets lose this game. But I just think Tyrod Taylor can make plays in this football game to move the sticks out there, and just don't make that key mistake. And I think you're going to be able to handle a rookie quarterback going on the road on his first Thursday night football game where he didn't have a lot of prep time to get after it. So I do think the Cleveland Browns are in a good spot, and that's why we have the taglines down there with Jarvis Landry and Sam Darnold. Because I don't know if I trust fully yet in these situations. I want to see him go through this a couple times. I want to see him play on a Thursday night on a short week. He's still young. Boy, you'll get, look, as soon as that game ends on Sunday, you're getting the playbook thrown at you for the next week going to Cleveland and not a lot of practice time to get after it. I like the Jets. I like the way they came out. They fought last week versus the Dolphins. It wasn't a blowout game. But I just think tonight, when everything sets up here, Cleveland overall is the better football team than the Jets. It's crazy to even think that or say that. But I think they have advantages at certain points, and I think they're going to get their first home win. Because, again, if this game was played in New York tonight, probably would be going with the New York Jets just because of how hard it is to lose a complete day going on travel and not being able to prepare effectively before taking the field in front of your home team. So a lot of times in these Thursday night games, it's really where they play, but you won't catch me anywhere. I mean, you might as well donate to charity if you're betting on road teams on Thursday night football. It just doesn't happen. Look, I mean, your dog can chase a car up and down the street repeatedly, but eventually he's going to get hit by one of those cars. So take it as you want in there. I think they're going to be a decent play tonight. I think they're going to win. And look at the lines up here. I mean, they've been shifting all week. More juice-wise, Pinnacle opens up at 3, goes to 315, 320, back down to 105, back here to 110. But the prevailing number, Chris, -3, -115. Intertops, -3, -115. Five Dimes, -3, -115. So that's what we're looking at. But I do think it'll be a little bit lower scoring. It's 40.5. So, I mean, Tyrod Taylor, as you know, is not going to push the issue in the pocket. More of an Alex Smith's a little bit better quarterback than Tyrod Taylor, don't get me wrong. But that same MO. Not going to force the ball out there. The pocket breaks down, going to roll out and take my 5 to 6 yards, as opposed to maybe I had that 10 to 15-yard out I could have threw in there. And Sam Darnold, rookie quarterback, going on the road. The Jets aren't a high-octane offense. So we're looking at that 40.5 number. But again, it's hard. But when you're looking at 40.5 and 21-21, you lost already, And that's not that high of a score in the NFL. But Thursday night games tend to be a little bit sloppier. I know if you wanted to take a look at the previous one, there was a lot of scoring in that Baltimore-Cincinnati game. But I think you had a lot more weapons out on the field that you had to deal with. But that's what I'm thinking there if we're taking a look at the Cleveland Browns tonight. Just my two thoughts. Also, college football game we touched on a little bit earlier. The Temple Owls are playing the Tulsa Golden Hurricane here in the city of Philadelphia. I don't think you're going to get too many weather issues here. Not as hot as it or muggy as it's been in the last couple of days. Early here in the morning, we'll have to see what it gets down to. But I know on Sunday here we'll be in those low 70s. So hopefully, finally, getting some fall weather in here in some of these football games. 69% of the tickets coming in on Temple, 47% of the money. And we talked about it. 6.5 it opened up, goes to 7, 7.5. Now dipping back under that number, Chris, minus 6.5. Minus 115. Bet online minus 7, minus 101. Pinnacle just flashed a new number, minus 6.5, minus 105. Just comes down to the number. I don't love this game. I think Temple's the better overall football team, but Temple's not the team that usually is going to blow you out, even though they had a nice game at Maryland last week. So give them credit on a bounce back after a really good Buffalo team, which came in, which Temple had the lead that did end up blowing that game as well. But in this one, just as simple to me, Tulsa Temple, coin flip type game. I know a lot more people are going to be on Temple just because they're at home. You don't know much about Tulsa Golden Hurricane. President's going to come in and run the football. They have a quarterback that passes it. They're a little bit high tempo. So we're looking at maybe a 54.5. They could probably reach that 54.5 tonight, but Temple's going to want to slow it down with Armstead on the ground. Newtown a little bit banged up, but he should be fine to go in this game. Anything south of 7, I got a little bit of a lean on those hometown Temple Owls. Why don't we slide down that ticker one more time and get after a little bit of NFL updates? And we'll pick on the sport of kings that we can have fun. Guan White, weeks 1 through 8. Thursday Night Football tends to go over. Sportscapper Browns on a 5-over streak in the same game, number 3. Luke, I'm not putting my money on a team that hasn't won in 600-plus days. They need to prove to me. Yeah, no, there's something to be said about that. But sometimes I think you can pick spots out there that says, if they ain't winning this game, they ain't winning at all. And there's look, we've all played sports, right? Whether you had a good team or a bad team. I was on a lot of bad football teams in college. I was on some good football teams in high school. But you knew the spots, right? Hey, we're going to go up against this team. Yeah. See if we can hang around. Maybe I can put some stats up in that game, but I don't think we're going to win. Next game, looks a little bit dicey there. Maybe I could pick up a couple catches here in the fourth quarter when we're down. But this game right here, we can win this. And the team knows it. The city knows it. I mean, hell, we get back to the point where they have the refrigerators around town locked up, ready to give out beer. Bud Light anticipates them getting a win and getting a win early. Otherwise, they would have put those stupid refrigerators out in like late December when they would have played a team they thought they can win. I think even Bud Light circled the trucks here and said, you know what? We're going to get a home game week 3 against the Jets. They can win it. Let's get this promotion out and underway, just in case they might beat New Orleans or the Steelers. I think they can beat the New York Jets in this one here. So should be interesting, and we'll have some fun to see it play out. But I'm sure there'll be a lot of hot takes. But I did give it as my play of the week on the roundtable yesterday. So I'm pretty confident in this game. I think it's going to win. I think they do. But look, if the Jets go in here and win 21-10, we can all laugh at the Browns. I mean, can't we all laugh at the Browns? Will they even get a win the rest of the year? And we can hear how, Hugh Jackson's a player's coach, and boy, Dorsey really has this team going in the right direction. And look at all the trades he's making. He's stacking draft picks. And we all know that draft picks win football games in the NFL, not players. A la what they have. Man, imagine if they would have had Carson Wentz already under their belt for a couple of years in Cleveland. Things would be looking up a little bit there, but picks are always better than better players. So I fully understand that. Or guys that they cut. I saw an article come out yesterday on the Cleveland Browns before we get to some other NFL stuff that said, boy, these guys are getting cut. These guys should be getting cut, and Dorsey's getting draft picks for them. Yeah, it's always great business when you take a guy in the first round and you get like a 7th for him, right? Fantastic business. Boy, what a genius Dorsey is. He was going to cut that first rounder, and he got a 7th. Imagine in a couple years when they can really turn that 7th round backup long snapper who gets cut by game 3 in the preseason. That's a winning pick right there. So get a lot of praise to Dorsey out there. Matthews with the Eagles. Yes. Jordan Matthews comes back, the best friend, it seeming like, with Carson Wentz. I thought he's heartbroken when his BFF got let go, was included in that trade at the Buffalo Bills for Darby last year. Everybody's, how's Carson going to take it, man? His BFF is gone. What's he going to do out there? Jordan Matthews is your everyday run-of-the-mill wide receivers, but the Eagles are so down at that position. It's nice to get a healthy body in there that knows the playbook already and has a rapport with your quarterback that's coming back this week. Perfect. I don't know if he's going to last the whole year, or even play more than 2-3 weeks. Alshon Jeffrey. Look at interesting. Hopefully, Meta came back there. Might have tried a couple things. Maybe the connection getting a little bit loose down there. Let's see if it comes back. Let me know if you can hear me out there, folks. I know it froze for a second there. You can still hear my voice, maybe still up. You know, there we go. But look at that. Look at that. Live on the look. Ain't no way you can keep me down. Look, Comcast knows I'm giving out good information right now. And New Jersey, it's legal gambling. No surprise that they're going to try to shut down this TV show or this internet show here when we get after it. There's no surprise in that. No surprise. But we're back in it. We're here to go. So let's keep talking there. Matthews with the Eagles as we went over that. Mahomes keeps – can he keep going here? Can he keep going? You know, you go out to the West Coast, you play a game in L.A., you light it up. Yeah, West Coast, there's not that many fans in the area. Then you come all the way back to the East Coast and play the Pittsburgh Steelers and light up the Steelers. Two great defenses. I mean, Pittsburgh's not a great defense, right? LA Chargers, not a great defense. Going home now playing Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not going to play him on defense. But how good is that San Francisco defense? I know they get back Reuben Foster, which is a great addition. Look, get a playmaker in the middle of your lineup. As you see, the last couple of weeks, CJ Mosley went down for the Ravens. Seemed like they didn't have really a good response there on defense playing the Cincinnati Bengals, and it looks like he'll be out of them. But when you get that quarterback and the defense back, it is going to make a difference. But how's that secondary going to hold up? Now you're playing in Kansas City. You know they're going to be raring to go. Home field advantage, home opener after being 2-0 with 2 impressive wins on the road. But can he hold up? He looks really – the game plan looks phenomenal out there. You know, Sammy Watkins, rejuvenated. Tyreek Hill, super speed. You got one of the best tight ends in football over the middle. Offensive line's holding up. Mahomes can run around in the pocket, extend the play, and has an absolute cannon. Good running back situation. You know, Andy Reid's a really good football coach when he can game plan and get you ready, especially early in the season. I think it continues this week. I mean, not capping the game directly, but if you're going to get something, you know, I know it opened up, 4.5, 5.5 in that range. Now we're peaking at 6.5. 5 dimes -7 plus 105. Not really a line there. So the prevailing line most likely 6.5 in that instance. That's a hard team to step in front of on offense because it looks like they have 30, 35 in their back pocket here. I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I like what the Niners are doing. Told you, I liked them in that instance there. I just wanted to see if they could play well in Minnesota, which they did. Then they came back home. They played the Detroit Lions, opened up a nice lead. Looks like they were going to cover the spread and end up almost losing the game. But based on a couple flags out there, we're able to pull that out. So I think the Niners are heading in the right direction. But this is a tough environment to go to. Similar. I mean, look, you go to a dome in Minnesota and play a really good defense. Now you're going to go to Kansas City. Hard to hear the play calls out there. We'll see if Goodwin gets back. I know he was trying to get back in action. We saw some from practice tape, you know, trying to loosen up that quad, see if he can make it back, because that's a big, big advantage if he can get back to try to help out, you know, Kittle over the middle and the running game, Matthew Breida, young guy. But I still think they're a little bit too young, and I think maybe the Kansas City Chiefs can win that game by a touchdown or more. So we'll see what happens, and I'll get after it there. Steelers, team turmoil. What do we make of this in the betting public? Do we take it? Look, professional athletes usually are only about themselves, and we know that. You know, as you see Le'Veon Bell holding out. He wants more money, even though he can't get any more money this year. You know, he's down on Sundays, you know, putting out videos that he's on jet skis while the Steelers are playing. And, you know, Steelers struggling a little bit, 1-1. I don't think many people saw that on the horizon. Now heading down to Tampa Bay before the season, you thought that might be an easy environment for the Steelers to go into and play, right? Now you see Antonio Brown, trade me. You know, why don't you guys don't like me, then everybody should trade me. Even though he doesn't want to trade, but going at it with the people on Twitter and saying, you know, you would miss me. You know, this isn't just Big Ben's team. He needs me too. Doesn't show up for work Monday. Tomlin comes out. Yeah. No, it's fine. It was an excused absence. We worked through it. No fines. Then word leaks out the next day that they did fine him and they did discipline. It wasn't a quote unquote family day for him that he just decided to skip it out. But you get a little bit of help on the horizon, right? Joe Hayden back to practice. That's going to help out. You got Deshaun Jackson down there. I mean, you got some weapons. Mike Evans, you know, big tight end and Howard. Fitzmagic throwing it all over the place. Godwin at wide receiver. That's a pretty formidable offense that you're going to need all the cornerbacks that you possibly can have in this. But let's talk betting philosophy on where your head's at here. Because, look, if the Steelers lose this game and go 0-2-1, they're done. They're out of the play. They are done out of the playoffs. I mean, 0-2 teams don't make the playoffs, right? How about 0-2-1 teams? How are they going to factor in to get back in? Because it looks like Cincinnati's a better team. Looks like Baltimore's going to be all right. I mean, hell, they even tied the Cleveland Browns in their football game, right? But the psyche going in, an absolute must win for the Steelers in this situation to go down to Tampa Bay. Joe Hayden's going to help them try to, you know, lock up Fitzpatrick, as we spoke to speak. But look, that line doesn't look that good, man. 61% on Tampa Bay. Line opens up at, -3, -2. It's down to a pick 'em at 5 times. You're going to pay a lot of juice for that pick 'em, don't get me wrong, but -1 for the Steelers. But sometimes look, we like to talk about spots. We talked about the Atlanta Falcons versus the Carolina Panthers last week. Good spot for them because they had to win. They going 0-2 and thinking they have playoff aspirations. If you're the Steelers, the only problem is you come in with the tie with Cleveland. You pretty much get your doors blown off. I mean, it was only a 10-point game, but it just seemed like, they got down 21-0. We just were lucky to get back into the game and still ended up losing that. And then you have a little bit of turmoil thrown in. I mean, they have to know that this is their last stand. They better get it right. But are they in the right frame of mind? I mean, we know we're getting a good effort from Connor. But Antonio Brown, hey, I'm just not going to show up on Monday, and I get a big check anyway. And where's Big Ben at? And Le'Veon Bell doesn't really want to show up. It's interesting because when you're looking at it, how hot Tampa Bay is, you don't want to step in front of that offense. But sometimes there are some spots in the NFL that you really can't avoid and say, look, Pittsburgh loses this game, they're done. And would that be interesting after like week 3, heading into week 4, Pittsburgh's not going to make the playoffs? Or they're going to have to pull some absolute miracle to make the playoffs? Really interesting there. I mean, Satan has it right, though. SVP. SVP is coming on the podcast tomorrow, so check it out, folks. Be me and SVP going over bad beats, maybe even include Stanford Steve if we want. Can you please start endorsing another sports book? I hate Bovada. Well, I mean, Bovada's the sponsored sports book out there. There are millions and millions of sports books, it seems like, offshore. Always check out sbrodds.com, sportsbookreview.com. If you have a complaint against a sports book, that's what we're here for. If you're not getting your payout fast enough, that's what we're here for. We are a sports book review monitor out there. Use us for what we can do for you in that instance. But Bovada has been they're not actually a sponsor of the show. We are promoting the sports book of Bovada. The only interesting thing, too, is like I'm in New Jersey, as you folks know. I can't use Bovada in New Jersey. So I can't even log on and even see lines but if you are a dog player, they always seem to have the line juiced up at least a half or whatever it is. So, something that you can certainly do that. But yeah, you can go on and check sportsbookreview.com. We'll give you a complete review of all the books out there so we can get after it there. I'm big on Tampa this week, Armin. Look, you know what? We got 15 minutes. I'm going to set the stage for you right now, right? Let's set it. Las Vegas, let's say maybe 1 p.m. Pacific time. I can't really remember exactly where I was, but I was in a room. And somebody was like, yo, Tampa Bay's got some value this year. I think Tampa Bay, as an underdog, maybe team total, not that bad. Somebody can get me back with that NFL guru who told me that in front of people live, not in a back room, not in some Twitter chat, not going back and forth with people who don't even know their names. There was one guy that was actually on stage. I think they might have had cameras there. I think there might have been an audience. And I can't remember what casino it was at. It might have been Caesars, Mandalay Bay, maybe even been Fremont Street. But one lunatic said like Tampa Bay. And most people gasp and laugh. Who is this heretic up there on stage saying Tampa Bay has value? If anybody can get me in touch with that guy, really like to meet him, and we'll get him on the show tomorrow on the right side of campus. But anyway, back to Tampa Bay. Look, their offense looks good. It really does. And is there any train slot? Like, what has the Pittsburgh Steelers done on defense that's going to deter you from getting after it? It was in the rain. I get it. Not the greatest weather week 1, but they got sliced through the air last week. And some would anticipate the same thing. If we take a look at the over-under in this game, open up at 50. Sitting at 54 right now at Chris, 53.5 at 5 dimes. Bet online 53.5. So there are going to be some points on Monday night because you have 2 gunslingers at quarterback and 2 weapons on the outside. When we talked last week about the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Nick Foles can't expose that team. Those wide receivers can't expose that secondary. Big Ben, Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster can expose that secondary and push the needle down the field, up and down the field. So kind of interesting stuff. Yes. Kyle Hamburg got it. It was Jim Fossil, yes. And the best part about Jim Fossil at the convention is like usually most people were like really nice and, you're an old coach, so you stick up for coaches. Dude went in on Hugh Jackson. Like, yeah, I interviewed the guy and I was thinking about, we needed a quarterback coach and something was awful in the interview. So I just told him to, basically thanks and have a nice day later. That was pretty interesting on that one. So a lot of fun when you talk about stuff and coaches that actually really give their opinion on stuff, not just, yeah, he's a fantastic coach. He's 1 in 35 or whatever he is. But boy, what a smart football mind Hugh Jackson is. Fossil one, and nothing to do with that, which was kind of interesting on that. Moving down the list here, Rodgers' knee. If we're watching in the NFL and you're betting, look, the dude is tough as nails. I don't know what they do in Green Bay I don't know what they give their quarterbacks, but if you're looking at two Iron Men type situations, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, unless you fracture their shoulder where they can't physically throw the football, these guys play. No idea how bad this knee injury is for Aaron Rodgers, but reports coming out yesterday, there's actually a chance that he could damage the knee further here. So how badly is that knee hurt? But as long as he can stand upright in the pocket and manipulate the pocket even a little bit, man, he just throws lasers all over the football field, as you saw last week, even with the Minnesota Vikings game. Now they're going to step out and go on the road, which, look, it's not a popular opinion if you want to go out there and back the Washington Redskins, because the one thing that I don't like about the Washington Redskins is Mr. Dink and Dunk is back there. If the Washington Redskins are getting like 5 or 6 points, it's always going to be interesting because Alex Smith can dink and dunk you back into the game or maybe even keep it close late. I watched the film again yesterday for the Indianapolis Colts Washington Redskins game, and I didn't even know what to make of it. It looks like, 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes left in the game, and he's throwing 3-yard outs to Chris Thompson left and right. And you're saying to yourself, like, look, you have to push the envelope here because it's about when you score, not if you score, Alex Smith. But he's never taken that mentality. I don't want to hear any of these numbers analytics that, hey, Alex Smith threw the ball deep a lot last year. Yeah, I don't care. Alex Smith's career MO is, oh, my God, there's a guy wide open 40 yards downfield, and you go, ooh, that running back in the flat's wide open. And he throws it to the running back in the flat. That's just what he does. But the line is interesting here, and everybody and their grandmama is jumping on the Green Bay Packers. And I hear you. It's Aaron Rodgers. Same way like a lot of people were jumping on the New England Patriots last week with Tom Brady down playing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, Tom Brady had to pick him. I mean, look, that's what the NFL does, man. It's hard to win football games on the road. It really is. Trying to find a way to find it in there to bet against Aaron Rodgers. But I'm under the impression that with every week that goes by, his knee gets better. And I know how some people are going to play that off and Green like, hey, man, there's whispers out here. And can anything get worse? Hey, my ankle doesn't feel too good. I'm afraid it might get worse. Sure, it might get better also at the same time. But that's just an interesting game because sometimes you have to take games with a grain of salt. Boy, they look like world beaters against the Arizona Cardinals. My goodness, look at the Washington Redskins. Then they come home and lay an egg versus an Indianapolis Colts team that I don't think is all that great and one of the softer teams out there. So, Arizona Cardinals might be what they are, who they thought we were, as Dennis Green would like to say. That's a really bad football team. Maybe the real Redskins came out last week. And what's going to take place when it comes to town? Look, Green Bay, not a convincing win week 1, not a convincing win. They didn't even win week 2. So, they're going to have to come over to Washington and maybe win that game by at least 4 points or something like that. But it's kind of interesting when it gets down. But I'm always the contrarian in the NFL. I want to see why these lines are moving there. I want to find a reason to take the Washington Redskins. Because again, look, I like home teams in the NFL, but you got to give me a reason. Like Alex Smith is going to extend plays. Alex Smith's going to convert 3rd and 4s. But when I need Alex Smith to go in a scoring drive and throw that dot down the field in one-on-one coverage, and he just falls in love with the running back swinging out of the backfield, man, the reason why you're still not in Kansas City, Alex Smith, and they went with Patrick Mahomes. You know what Andy Reid saw? This kid's a slinger. When we need to make the big play, he's not afraid to throw into double coverage and get that big first down, where Alex Smith will pump fake, roll out left, and run for 4 yards out of bounds. Yeah, it's nice because you get a little bit closer to the first down, but you have to take shots in the NFL to win football games, and that's basically what it all comes down to at that point. And NCAA football weekend, real quick, final stand for FSU, 10-point favorite. If you looked at NIU's offensive numbers over the first few games, absolutely atrocious. So when I say like the final stand for FSU, if you cannot get it going versus NIU, is the stadium down in Doak going to be half empty the rest of the season? You can't get, look, they're a state university. It's not like really like Alabama or, major boosters. You're not going to buy a coach out after the first year, are you? And just cut them a check and for the coaching staff, estimated around $30 million total to buy everybody out. But that's not a good look. You should pace that out. You should be able to hand the ball off to Cam Akers 30 times in this game and put up 30 points against a MAC football team. Look, I know NIU's played some pretty good defense to start the season, but their offense isn't good enough to move the football against FSU. Willie, step it up, man. Stanford, Oregon, decent game out on the left coast here. It's Bryce Love going to get the play. He's going to be healthy enough to get after it. Herbert at quarterback is going to be able to step it up and elevate his game because in the past, Stanford's going to line up with triple tight end sets and just try to get big and physical and get after Oregon. That's going to take place. Certainly a good game to look at. Another latest line that I was looking at, I believe Stanford was now popping up somewhere around a 2.5, or maybe believe it was around 2 here. Stanford, Oregon. There we go. 2.5 at Chris, 2 at Intertops, 2 at 5 dimes. 67% of the early bets coming in here on Stanford, over under 56. We'll see what David Shaw has to offer up there, but they're going to get big, down, and dirty in that game to see if they can do it. It's like conflicting interest here. One team wants to go a little bit more up tempo. The other team wants to slow it down. It's always fun when these two teams meet. Even back in the days of Marcus Mariota and Chip Kelly, they were always meeting on a stalemate where one team was just trying to keep the football while the other team was trying to go 100 miles an hour in this. Bryce Love returning, enough for me to be on Stanford, Jansen. Yeah, hasn't that been the MO? Hasn't that been the MO? Give me a really good running back, and we'll just hand it to him 30 to 35 times against Oregon and frustrate their offense because they want the ball back, but we'll hold it for 6 and 7 minute drives. Seems like it is there. Seems like it. Martinez cleared for Nebraska. Another interesting one here. If you watched Nebraska play, versus Troy last week, completely inept with a quarterback that, walk-on, non-scholarship guy. What more do you anticipate? You can't lose that game to Troy, though, Nebraska. Now they're going to go on the road. Looks like Martinez is back. Do I think they can win the football game at Michigan? No. But sometimes when you see some late injury-type information, that line was at 17. I haven't checked it lately. I don't really know how much of that's moved at all, if any. Look at that. Yeah, information comes back that Martinez is going to be probable for the game. The line goes from 17 to 17 and a half. So people like Michigan more. But one interesting one there, maybe, the over-under. If you're going to get a quarterback that's athletic and maybe can move the football, maybe that 50 comes into play, because the 50 wouldn't have come into play for me last week when you're going to have a walk-on quarterback. But at least this kid can make some plays. They think he is going to be available for this game because he did practice yesterday in full gear, but will wear a knee brace. But a pretty electric quarterback, young quarterback. He is going to make mistakes, but you would think he might be able to move the football there and maybe, get after that 50, because I do think Michigan's going to be able to score some points in this game against Nebraska. And we all know Scott Frost and that whole fast offense, which, look, if you're going to 3 and out, you're going to 3 and out quick, and that gives extended possessions to teams like Michigan that aren't really, up-tempo type teams. So you're going to see a little bit more possessions than you usually would in these type of games. What did SMU get, 20 on them last week? No reason to think that Nebraska, if Martinez starts, can get 20 as well. So maybe an over 50 might come into play. Just some interesting stuff to talk about. And the last thing in college, we'll talk about Alabama. Do you step in front? Are they overpriced? Are they overtaxed? Playing a good football team this week. And it just seems like some of these numbers just can't be too high. 25.5, 26.5, 27.5. Jimbo Fisher's been there, done that before in some of these big game environments. He's going to have his team prepared. But it's one of those issues. Do you step in front of Alabama at this point? You just let it play out. What happens if Alabama gets out to another big start, 28-7 in the first half? Good luck trying to move the football against that Alabama's defense with their teeth out at that point. But then it's kind of interesting when you look, over-under of 60. You say, oh, my God, Alabama hung 60 last week by themselves. Of course, Ole Miss isn't the same type of pedigree that this Texas A&M team is. But wouldn't you think that with Tua, Hurts, no matter who they put in there, they're going to be able to move the football against A&M? But can A&M move the football against Alabama? I think they can. I mean, I got a one-dimensional Ole Miss team didn't even really show up outside of the first play of the game, the 75-yard touchdown to start it. They didn't do much the rest of the way. So you say, Donnie, what would make you think that Texas A&M can do so? I just think Jimbo Fisher's a better head football coach and can have these guys getting somewhere in those, high teens, low 20s, and then Alabama do their thing, as we like to say. So that should be an interesting one to keep a point on out there. Chat box information out there, all on TCU for me. Donald Traub versus those Texas Longhorns. Agree on the over. Sherrigan says the Browns win the Super Bowl. You could probably get a pretty good price on that if you wanted to get after it. Got a ride with Alabama. Use Tweety discount day 10. All right, so we got some stuff going on out there. Alabama team total overs to play. How can it not be the play sometimes? You know what you like about that too? When I talk about Clemson, we only have a couple minutes here, but some interesting points. You know how when you go to like the backup quarterback in college, like things tend to settle down and just look to get out of there. When Tua comes off the field and Jalen Hurts comes on the field, Jalen Hurts isn't out there to run 3 plays and get off the field. They're trying to keep that kid happy. Same thing with Sunshine down there with Clemson when he gets in the football game. Do you think he's coming in like a late in game situation, or if you're up a couple touchdowns, where Jimbo or Dabo says, "Hey, Sunshine, get out there and hand the football off, and let's just get out of here." No, man, these kids want to play when they get in. You have 2 quarterbacks, no matter if it's a blowout, coming in the football game and want to do even more damage. It's always a nice thing to have because most teams don't have that, especially when you're trying to balance really talented players. How are you going to tell that kid, say, hey, 28-7, don't do anything crazy out there. There's 5 minutes to go. I'm going to call 3 running plays. No, you're going to let him get a shine out there. That's what's always interesting when you have two really talented quarterbacks that in a blowout situation, the second one is going to be coming in there. So always interesting. Donnie, which big double-digit favorite do you like in college football this week? Double-digit favorite? You know which one is actually, because there's a lot of look-ahead games, and even like the Ole Miss game is sort of a look-ahead game. What are they, 28.5 over Kent State? You would think they have enough to put it on, Kent State, because Kent State does go relatively fast. I don't think there's too many faster teams out there than Ole Miss. Should be some points scored in that game, but Kent State's going to level up. And how much does Kent State actually want this football game either? They just played Penn State and got rolled last week. Now they come into this game to an SEC team on the road before their MAC starts or MAC competition starts. How much do they really want out of that football game? Some of those type games and situations, but there are a lot of look-ahead games. Folks, we are just about out of time. Thanks for running with me solo today. Wanted to get a little bit closer to the mic so you can sound a little bit like Barry White. Had a good time here going over a lot of stuff. So catch us here at the right side of campus. I was your host today, Donnie Rightside, big man on campus, sitting over in his den right now, I guess, trying to punch some things up on his phone. Hopefully Comcast, Xfinity, whoever the cable provider can get that up and running so we can get back for right side of campus on a football Friday tomorrow. Went over some NFL today. I'll be on with the Audible as well tomorrow with Jimmy. We should have a good show on that, wrapping up the week to see what we can possibly find some ins and outs. But always today on Thursdays, as is Wednesdays also. Check out those practice reports in the NFL. Who's not practicing? Who is practicing? A lot of information. Get on those beat writers as well in college football. Get those little tidbits that can help you win money. Fun show today on the right side of campus. I was your host today, Donnie Rightside. We'll catch you tomorrow bright and early, 10 a.m. Eastern time on the right side of campus. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks.